continue to say a big thank you to those who are watching at this moment. And so we have to change the dynamics of the game in order to get our revolution back on track. And so I should be starting in the next couple of minutes. And so we have to get everything straight up. And so the necessity of this live show is to put in place a couple of things. Normally, we shouldn't be on this platform, but because of the difficulties we have had in engaging in our regular platform, we want to thank the management of National Telegraph for giving us this opportunity to use their studio. We're trying to set up a couple of things. As you can see, the technicians are still working to get the lighting right. But that notwithstanding, we still want to continue in this manner no matter what's going on. So we would say that this is a very crucial point. If my sound is okay, let me know the sound is okay. All our social media platforms are down in a way or one way or the other. So if my sound is okay, let me know so that I'm going to ensure that everything is okay. Once that is done, we should be moving on from there. Okay, so now I think the sound is okay according to comments that I'm getting. And I want to thank everybody who's watching at this time and to let everybody understand the necessity of this live show. There's a lot that's going on, and the confusion is quite huge as far as the whole geopolitics of the lockdown stuff is concerned. We have been consulting at our end with various stakeholders to understand the raison d'etre of their actions and their declarations. And it is now done on us that there are a whole lot of things that were taken into consideration before we actually got ourselves in this position. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Southern Cameroonians, as you are all aware, I'll be following some of your comments from the other device. So from time to time, you would notice a couple of distractions. So we are very grateful that most of you are joining us at this time. So we thank you all, those of you who are joining. And so we're just some 5 minutes into this program. We're happy that more than a quarter of 1,000 people are watching. And so please, as you join, invite everybody. We are also sorry that we're starting some 10 or 15 minutes late. Very sorry on that. So going forward, we want to be clear on this particular issue of the lockdown. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Southern Cameroonians, 2 days ago, I was contacted on an issue that happened in the Mojok local government area in Manu County. And even yesterday, I was also contacted on something that happened in Dian. I've been contacted on issues in other counties. And the fight to put sanity in our revolution continues. Well, it's important for everybody to note the quote that is passing down on our news bar, which is from Martin Luther King Jr. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say it very clearly that it suffices at this time of the revolution for every single Southern Cameroonian to understand that the perspective of the game has changed and the revolution is on the fast wheel, and we have to accept to jump into the bike, into the trolley. We have to accept to jump onto any vehicle as a family. You see, since the jailing of our leaders, the life sentences that were handed our president, His Excellency Sissoco Ayoktabe Julius, and 9 other members of his retinue, I have given myself a period to stay out of social media, except it was important at some times that I interjected with some comments on some WhatsApp groups. But out of that, very few comments per se, but out of that, I deliberately decided to stay out of Facebook discussions, out of even publishing any news on my website, out of anything else, but we also concentrated on projects that could help Southern Cameroons. Once more, I want to say that this is not the Eric TATAW activism platform. This is National Telegraph. We're thanking the management for giving us this huge opportunity to hold this live show. Reason why we took time, because there were a lot of consideration to bring you on this platform from my team, who think that it is important, but after all, they think it's important for me not to use their platform in doing activism, but I've explained to my team that activists also come on debates, and I'll try to be civil and modest as possible, because the essence of this show is to bring back sanity into our revolution and to call for social media ceasefire and to prick the consciences of our compatriots to understand how much we have lost as a people, as a community, how much we have lost in terms of our resources, and how many of our brothers have been burnt, killed alive, and the number of our villages that have been destroyed by the colonial regime in Yaoundé. Based on this, ladies and gentlemen, we even have a bigger challenge ahead of us, which is so much more involved in the manipulation that the government of Paul Biya Vondo has put out there on our people, and we have to look at the bigger picture. I think that sometimes it is very vital for us to exercise strict policies when it comes to the domains of peaceful coexistence, understanding, collaboration, and to the essential belief in self-sufficiency and how much you can provide and put on the table for a cause as genuine but yet very complicated as ours. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Southern Cameroonians, it is my very primary obligation as one of the leading voices of this revolution that this position given to me by the divine grace of God to assist our dying people. It is not by my will, not by my might, that all of you come online to listen to me. It is because there is a certain assignment that God has given each and every one of us who decides to come out here to talk on behalf of a people who are almost been alienated by a regime that is made of very carnal and very wicked human beings. As we are all aware, war was declared on us by the President of Cameroon, Paul Biya Vondo, and his ministers have been doing crusades and going around feeding fat and feeding their families and building mansions, and all the prosperities in the world have been going to their bank account based on the fact that the government of Cameroon is funding a war in Ambazonia. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, a lot is going through my mind as an activist. A lot has gone on, and we have exercised right affairs at various levels. And at the end of the day, it is very symbolic for us to take stock of our activities. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, for the strongest man in this revolution is going to call for social media ceasefire, and the weakest man will beat his chest that he called for the ceasefire. That is why, if you look at the chain of action between La Republique du Cameroon and Ambazonia, the strongest party expected to call for ceasefire, who called for the war in the first place, is La Republique du Cameroon. Because as we are all aware, and to be chronological in our understanding and to be honest in our dispositions, the Cameroon government has far more heavy war equipment than us Ambazonians. As we are all aware, we are always trying to defend ourselves. That is why we have repeatedly called for dialogue and called for the international community to intervene for ceasefire. I want to believe that the many voices that have called me since the detention of our leaders are actually the kind of voices that we, like the international community, coming to intervene in this social media craze that has greatly affected the people of Southern Cameroon. Martin Luther King Jr. has been very specific in his quote that we need leaders not in love with money, but in love with justice, and of course, leaders not in love with publicity, but in love with humility. So these are the kind of leaders we want to see in Southern Cameroon. I think that generally there has been a whole lot that is going through. And ladies and gentlemen, we want to agree that La République du Cameroon has taken back the biggest word that caused division in our revolution. Before the use of this word, though we had our differences, it wasn't as intense as at the time this word was used. And Southern Cameroonians have been very concerned about who is using this word for which purpose. This word is compromise. Some time ago, one of us, Barrister Fujonso, flew the plane from Cameroon and came right here in Maryland, where he had a show with the team of ABC and declared our leaders compromised. That declaration alone caused a lot of squabbles and there was a lot of rifts at social media, not because there was information or the reconstitution of a government by Sisiko Ayoktabe Julius, not because Samuel Komisako did not want to leave power, not because Matrip Tuboya was embezzled or mismanaged, but because that particular word compromise was a catalyst that brought in a lot of things and people were using it for their own tremendous advantages. On the side of Dr. Samuel Komisako, his surrogates and as well as supporters used it to vilify the leadership in jail, while on the side of Sisiko Ayoktabe Julius, his supporters could not accept because indeed they know he was not compromised. Yesterday and 2 days ago, I was contacting the spouses of the detained or jailed Ambazonian leaders. I first of all contacted the wife of His Excellency Sisiko Ayoktabe Julius, Mrs. Lilian Ayoktabe, who spoke with me from his safe place somewhere in the United States. She spoke to me extensively and encouraged us to preach only unity, that it was the vital thing that was going to change the game. I shared my understanding of how much I think she can be at pain or in pain, and she told me that it is understandable because they didn't expect less. She also explained to me that she stayed all night long to get the verdict from Yaoundé, and what came out from the court was not surprising to them. Thereafter, we exchanged contacts where I got the contact of Mrs. Kimeng, and I reached out to Mrs. Kimeng. We were supposed to have an interview with the spouses of these our detained leaders, and Mrs. Kimeng was very strong. In fact, we discussed when she had some other issues to attend to, and I was pleased to know that the leaders and their wives are doing great. I also reached out to the wife of Pam Fongalafo, who we discussed at length, and yesterday she returned a call back to me. And I want to let you all know that I've also discussed with a couple of family members of the detained leadership, including the son of Pam Fongalafo, Dr. Tonga, who is in Wisconsin. In fact, he's one of the last persons I spoke with today when I got up from my sleep. I think that Ambazonians should be thinking of her and reaching out to the family members of these people who have been landed live jails and that have been given monies that we will only need to sell part of our oil wells in Dian to pay what La République du Cameroun is asking us. We must all agree that at a point we all have made mistakes, and I thought that the jailing of our leaders was going to be as a stepping stone towards reconciliation from all the groups. But unfortunately, I think hatred has eaten deep into the fibers of our leaders and those who call themselves leaders, who have refused to deny the love for money and the love for popularity and have been doing bras de fer all their lives. I knew that a day would come when all my talking on social media would have been put in context, and when people would understand that I was not just talking because I needed to talk, but it was important because I needed to talk at that time. After attending the meeting between Dr. Samuel Komisako and His Excellency Sisiko Ayoktabe Julius, I understood the polemics, and when Barrister Fujonso came up with the context of somebody being compromised, I knew it was all made up. And just before we knew it, the military court in Yaoundé has proven that beyond reasonable doubt, and we see that all Ambazonians have withdrawn from silly statements, but some are definitely with the devil's pen in their hands and the devil's lips, where they cannot decease from negativity. To people, points that they don't agree with, they call it confusion. If you don't agree with somebody, you brandish the person a federalist. If you don't agree with anybody, you're going to call the person a name. Today, I stand a proud Ambazonian because God gave me the opportunity to defend prisoners, to speak the truth when everybody thought nobody could do it. God gave me the opportunity to be able to fall out with the best of friends and companionship because I'm here to speak the truth. One thing I will know and for sure that I will never regret is the last 2 months of my activism career where I stood up against the very interim government that I protected for a long time. It was a necessary thing to do at the time of the revolution, and I must say that it has given us the opportunity to classify who and those who are objective in this revolution. But that alone has not also refused us the opportunity to make amends and to reconcile and to ask for forgiveness for the global good of the revolution. Whether or not you accept it, everybody has made mistakes. Nobody on earth, no living being is God, including the Pope. That is why everybody, in one way or the other, we have seen Reverend Fathers in twist. At the same time, we have also seen the best judges falling short of some judgments. We must all agree that the time for bad affair has passed, and the sentencing of our leaders is already a commitment that nobody is supposed to avoid or overlook. It gives me joy to think that we will not have underestimated the vices that will come from some people, that despite the jailing of our leaders, some have still continued with conspiracy theories. And I ask you as a man, even though you're a fake profile, even though you use a nickname to call your audios, I begin to doubt, and it clarifies my imagination, and it gives me a firmer belief of the preachers who say there is devil and there is hellfire. I agree with them 100%, because if they were in hellfire, you will not have people who at this juncture, despite the fact that Siseko Ayoktabe Julius have been landed life sentences, they still make audios trying to implicate him in his own malaise, trying to implicate him in a judgment that a kangaroo court has landed. But I want to seize this opportunity to thank Barrister Fujonso, who has indirectly apologized. For the longest time, Barrister Fujonso did not call Siseko Ayoktabe and those in jail our leaders, but taking the opportunity and rounds on ABC to say our leaders, it is no more news that he feels remorseful for the declaration of the word compromise. Even Dr. Samuel Komisako also referred to Siseko Ayoktabe Julius as our leaders. And I've listened to all those audios carefully. And when I listened, or when I had a chat with the wives of our compatriots, they spoke a lot about forgiveness. And Mrs. Ayoktabe told me that, yes, people would have taken power, but they should not have tarnished the image of his husband. But she added that it was important that he felt comfortable that some of us came out to speak the truth, and that no matter how much they did to vilify Ayoktabe, it did not work. Mrs. Mfongalafo also related to me and said when this word compromise came up, she wrote something very lengthy and was very mad at those who brought the word because he's been talking with the leadership in jail. In fact, Mrs. Mfongalafo told me in a telephone conversation that when the government was reconstituted, and after listening to the rumors from social media groups, she thought it was a Siseko idea, but he reached out to Pam Fongalafo, who is the oldest member in the cabinet in jail, and Pam Fongalafo told her that it was a collective decision by all 10 of them because of issues that she explained to me that I cannot be explaining here, which would be like I'm also vilifying the Sako camp. So for that reason, I'm going to keep it to myself. So it means Evan Pam Fongalafo and everybody was pleased with what they did in jail, but that must have been misinterpreted. That is why we say that the best intentions the worst harms comes from the best intentions. And that alone cracked the revolution. Barrister Fujonso cemented the crack with the word compromise. But ladies and gentlemen, except you're oblivious of this systematic, remorseful nature that Barrister Fujonso has put out there, this is the time for us to empower each other. Like Mrs. Fongalafo told me yesterday, that he believes more not in the negative thing that somebody has done, but in what positive thing the person said during the negative things the person said. That we should look at each other's capacity and not their weaknesses. And this is what I learned from that woman who, despite having a husband who is facing a life jail, I felt very peaceful. Even Dr. Tonga told me it doesn't matter if the father belongs to this group or that group. What is significant for him is an Ambazonian that should be free. The same thing with Mrs. Siseko Ayoktabe Julius, Mrs. Kimben. I also reached out to Barrister Shufa and asked about the wife. I've not been able to contact all the wives of the leaders because of time. And I want us to seize the opportunity to pray to Mrs. Shufai, who is having a fracture and some crutches. She had an accident and she's been on crutches for the last 3 or more months. This is what family members are going through. Their children are homeless, they are displaced. These are people, professors and engineers who are very wealthy and who abandon their families and their jobs in order to fight for us. Despite the fact that some of us use social media to vilify them, they do not feel the absence of justice because some people stood for them and defended them. That does not mean that even the people who vilify them do not mean good about them. Some people misinterpreted the actions of others on social media, and that alone caused a lot of commotion. That's why I'm seizing this opportunity to use this Friday, which is a weekend, to look at the embodiment of a reconciliatory platform for the Amazonian people, where we will not be out there trying to fight each other because a lot is happening. At the same time that we're fighting, the military was attacking Nambili in Banga Bakundu, where 4 of our compatriots were killed and 1 other burnt alive as usual. While we're fighting, the military is taking people out the Koke camp in Mondoni, taking people from a corner and slaughtering mothers in Kembong and in everywhere around Amazonia. You have snipers on top of the tallest buildings in Bamenda trying to make sure that they get down to anybody that they suspect, irrespective of whether you're a fighter or not. These are the huge challenges that we as a poor Southern Cameroons we are facing at this time. And then come the lockdown. It is symbolic for me to say that the issue of the lockdown is quite a testing moment for the Amazonian people. And I want to seize this opportunity to address a very, very, very serious issue, that our perspective as people must change. Our belief in ensuring that only our views be heard must change. We must all know that nobody is better than the other, that if we put our heads together, we're going to have better results. I must tell you that during when the fighters took a decision to lock down Amazonia from the 2nd of September, I was not part of the debate, but I reached out to them later to ask the raison d'etre, and they explained to me. I can swear with my life that this decision came to me as a surprise. I didn't contact any fighter, neither was I in any meeting to decide the 2nd. It was just an endorsement based on the explanations of the fighters. And I think that we're going to further explain here and not try to superimpose the need for the understanding of 2nd to be the day of the lockdown. I think naturally fighters know what to do with those who want to go to boarding school early enough than the one way. But the principle of higher good must at every time supersede our natural and personal beliefs. But above all, we must make sure that our actions are not repugnant to natural and society justice. With this said, ladies and gentlemen, we must all know that I will seize the opportunity to let Chris Ano understand that he must believe in the conception of the good of society, and to get an overwhelming rejection of a declaration is indeed some issue that is far different from coming on social media and making declarations. We must agree that the issue about lockdown touches right into the nucleus of the daily lives of our people. It is different from when Barrister Fujonso used the word compromise and when there were arguments between the SACO and the Siseko camp as to who is who and what is what. But the issue of lockdown is rooted in the nucleus of the survival of the very people who are supposed to be there for you to liberate them. And each time your actions touches on the survival mechanism of the people on the ground, if you are a true leader, you must readjust. You must succumb to the aspiration of those directly on the ground. It is not supposed to be a debate on issues that are paramount to the lives and survival of the people on ground zero. I say so because if we assume by ourselves that we have refused to agree with things that are existing, then we are living in complete denial ourselves. A lot of people are living in denial. And henceforth, I want to say that if you're in any WhatsApp group, any Facebook platform, if somebody insults me and you support me, do not reply. That is the new strategy. I am today calling for a complete social media ceasefire and say that nobody should reply anybody in my name, whether on WhatsApp groups, they insult Eric TATAW, do not reply. Leave it and leave them in charge of their own garbage. I want to say this very clearly, that the reality is that we have different groups. Two of the groups each claiming I'm government and this one claiming I'm government. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to be critical in my analysis on this fact. When I'm done, I'll let us know that it is vital for all of us to agree on what works for all Amazonians. These are my suggestions. Sisikwa Yoktabe Julius and his cabinet have been jailed for life. As much as some people think that it's a political game where Paul Biya would release them, that is just an assumption. And that alone depends on Paul Biya. But I want, although some people justified the word impeachment, though it was never, that it would help for Seko to become useless and Paul Biya will release them. And I said, no, you cannot take a man's gun and leave him with a lion. The lion will eat the person. And some of us put out a good fight. And Barrister Abdul Oro, when I discussed with him from Nigeria, he told me that he was following, and that if not for some of us who came out powerfully to talk against that vice, maybe, just maybe, it would have been worse than a life sentence. But that is not the raison d'etre for this show. It's just to point out a couple of things where we have all made mistakes, and for us to rebrand our focus and stay on the ball. There is no denying of the fact that Eric TATAW has put out a very powerful fight, a fight that actually got the revolution almost on its knees, and I did it with the best intention, and it reshaped the revolution for the better. For those who refer to activists as irrelevant, they would understand by now that there is no irrelevant activists. That is why our fights have been very systematic, and everybody who supports the other camp has cried because they saw how much of a resistance and the strength that some of us put out there. But how far are we going to go with this? We have a lockdown in our hands, and Ground Zero is confused. But this is my suggestion. If Secretary Chris Ano thinks that truly their government, it was important for them to have come out with a lockdown 1 month before now. If they did, I would have endorsed them. But that's not to say what they have said doesn't make sense. You see, the truth is that even in America, if you have a $25 ticket, $50 ticket, if a police pulls you over and gives you a ticket, they give you up to 30 days to pay for that ticket. The reason why they give you 30 days is because justice, the law, is not supposed to be repugnant to natural justice, because you don't know when I'm going to get $50. You don't know if I have $10,000, I might not have an extra $50 to spare. That is why this space is given for tickets to be paid. With this said, ladies and gentlemen, we must all agree that the first mistake that Chris Ano and his team made was to come 4 days to lockdown to announce lockdown. It is poor, not only in terms of decision making, but in terms of the intention. To decide that a lockdown should be 4 days. That was the 20th, 21st, or one of those days. And that alone is a big blow, and there's been a lot of resistance. It was important for all of us, for the Chris Ano team, to understand that if you're a government, you would have come out with a lockdown a month ago, and it would be difficult for anybody to challenge it. And although we know people would have still challenged it for the sake of egos, excuse me, but your position would have been very clear and would have been genuine to the minds of many people. But the second was announced like a month ago thereabout, and it's been running from Equinox to all other news bars. But what happened? I said, like I predicted, not like I predicted, because I knew it was going to happen, that once Chris Ano and his team comes back from the UK, they were going to bring a contrary date closer or closest to the lockdown date, so that these will spur a kind of confusion. But unfortunately, most of the other leaders fell in the trap, trying to fight them, contradict them, and insult them, and all of this stuff. I want to let Secretary Chris know that this is not intended to be against you or your decision, but it's intended to be for your conscience Remember that the fighters who took the decision to get ghost towns for the second, they did it based on collective consultations with their own population. Maybe Secretary Chris has stayed too long abroad and he has lost contact with the way the society functions in Cameroon. Or perhaps he has never been a civil servant or has not been on the news the way civil servants live their lives. Or everybody in Cameroon depends on month end and salaries. And by standard procedure, salaries in Cameroon start in some companies from the 25th right up to the 5th, 25th of the whole month, right up to the 5th of the other month. When salaries are announced, people go to the banks to take their salaries. Therefore, a lockdown announced on the 26th automatically defeats the aspect of people's survival. And if we say that people cannot go to school because the right to live is supreme over the life of education, you cannot also impose a ghost town that becomes supreme over people's right to live. So it is a two-way traffic. What La République du Cameroon is doing for us to resume to take schools, we cannot also do it because we want people to respect ghost town. We must put ourselves in the position of these people. I had a call from Konengi, one of our big elites. I'm not going to mention the name, asking for matras. I'm working to see that I get that to him through probably Aya Foundation or anybody that's down there. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the lockdown on the 26th is not very feasible. It would have been a good idea if it were announced long ago so that people know that they can borrow stuff, borrow money, or look for their relatives. And Secretary Chris should also understand that paychecks in America are done bi-weekly, and there are people who might only receive their paychecks next week Friday or this Friday, and these are people who are breadwinners in their families. When you announce a lockdown, have you thought if I've sent my money to family members to buy food and also stock them? These are important questions that anybody who is trying to lead the people, who is in a position that is being listened to, must consider before going on air. I've read something from Didier, the coordinator of Maison, who said that they had a meeting after their announcement of Secretary Chris, who explained to them that boarding schools are going on the 26th or before the 2nd. But that declaration alone from Didier is to show a big gap and a weakness. That how can a communication officer go out to make a declaration before coming back to hold meetings with county heads? That is an abuse. That is the regime style, the Pobia style of administration that we are begging that our people should come down from that. 26 is a bad date for me, for anybody, anywhere in Cameroon or in Ambazonia. It is a bad date. People will take their salaries, and that is why we have had people trying to call fighters to say they must respect 26. No, you're going to kill many innocent people because, trust me, people will go out on the 26th to get food, to get money, to get water, to get stuff. And I want to thank the fighters who have been expectant of the lives of people by putting the 2nd as the date of this declaration. It is important that all of us should know that pronouncements of this nature must be done ahead of time. Now, the declaration of the 26th was only another way to bring a blood affair between those who had declared, because probably Secretary Chris and his team thought that we needed to tell them that we're in charge. This revolution is not about who is in charge. It's about who does the right thing in the interest of the general population. I'll ask Chris Anu and his team that what would have been of this revolution if the population revolts against us? That is a primordial question, and your declaration is working perfectly in line with what the government of Cameroon wants, a stretch on the population. Remember last time we enforced a 10-day lockdown, and that brought a lot of issues within our ranks. But it was successful, and our people cried, and we needed to always adjust. To lock people down for 5 days, 10 days, 21 days is not biscuit. We could lock the territory down for a month. That can be okay. But we have to prepare our people psychologically and materially. Give them ample time to get their medical stuffs in place. A lockdown of a territory entails any facet of the community will be affected. Transportation, medication, financial obligations, everything. Jangi houses, markets, everything will be affected. And you cannot come 4 days and tell the people that you'll be locked down. No. Nobody does that. Nowhere in the world. Not in America. Not even a Jami Dada used to do that. It is a sign of a weakness in trying to compete with other dates. Normally, what I expected of Secretary Chris and his team was for them to have concerted with the fighters. Of course, there are fighters in Dian, Kupe Maninguba, in Boyo. Some might take instructions from county heads, but even within the counties, there are other groups that are not loyal to the counties. We have the ADF, we have Sokadev, we have Tiger, we have all these groups. These are people who might have small or some huge percentage as well in their various areas where they occupy those territories. And it only suffices for us as a people to agree that we must talk to ourselves. I think the decision to deny, to talk to each other brought this confusion. But without disrespecting what Secretary Chris said, I, however, do not see it as rational and life-saving for me to have endorsed that date. That is why I'm adding my voice to all those who have been going with the second because of the rationale behind the second. If children have to go to boarding schools before the second, that does not mean that we'll kill others. The entire population of Southern Cameroon is not about boarding school. There are mothers who will need their drugs. People need to go to hospital. People need to buy food and keep in their houses. Do you know what it means for somebody to be trapped in a lockdown without water in his house or her house? These are the kind of things that we are supposed to consider. For all of you who support this and you do it based on your love for the people you're clapping for, sometimes you have to withdraw and have a reflection. You have to think about that. If I were the one. Now, some people are even in America, they are thinking that, for example, today is payday. I'm going to pick up my check today. If I didn't have extra money to send to my family, for example, how are they going to survive? It's going to be today. By the time I finish this show, maybe the banks will be closed. If that's the only money I depend on to send to my family, what's going to happen? I have to wait and then probably send it tomorrow, Saturday. And if they are picking it by Monday or the very Saturday, it's a different game. They'll be waiting for Munya market on a weekend or this market. The most markets in Southern Cameroon are on weekends. So these people were already calculating that before the second, they'll get everything happening. And it's important for us to put ourselves in these people's position. What is the big deal? Why can't we call ourselves? You see, in the past days, I've been very hard on issues because I knew that God was going to cement my cry sooner. And God did just that. My concern was, why would people lie against prisoners? And you must give justice to prisoners. And trust me, justice came. You see, when I spoke with Barrister Abdul Oro, we discussed, he was supposed to come on the show, but we are still arranging our studios. And he told me that Secretary Chris reached out to him to ask him to come on ABC. And he told him that no, he will not come. And he gave his reasons that I cannot release here. I mean, these are things that are not supposed to happen. Core people are not supposed to refuse to endorse you, because he gave a reason similar to what Dr. Makongo and Aya Abine did in the past. Before, who could have refused to come and have an interview with Secretary Chris? These are all signs when I talk about quality support. Quality support. It's important. Another reality, ladies and gentlemen, for us all to understand, is that Dr. Cho Ayaba was wrong to have called Dr. Sako and Chris Anu fake pastors. As a leader, he's supposed to be exemplary. We can say these things as activists because activists are vocal, they are verbose. But a leader of a revolution must choose his word. All of you who support Dr. Cho must agree that that was a mistake on his part. And do not take a mistake and start defending it. It is wrong. Even at the peak of my criticisms against Dr. Sako and Chris Anu, I never called them fake pastors. I call them only by the connotations of the things I've done wrong by embezzling my trip to Dubai. It's important, not people's genuine, titles to be insulted. They can be fake, but that is between them and their God. But the fact that our money disappeared, it was a concern for me. So it's important for all of us who support people to make them understand and see the mistakes that they have made. The same way you're defending Dr. Cho, calling Dr. Sako fake pastors. That's the same way the Sako fans are defending Sako even when everything was clearing. So based on this, we all have our fan base. However, I also saw the misinterpretation of the use of the word business as used by Dr. Cho. I will explain this very quickly in order for us to have a balance. If you pick up the dictionary and you type the meaning of the word business, there are two definitions of business that will immediately pop up. The first definition says a person's regular occupation, profession, or trade. A revolution is our occupation. But some people misinterpreted it, meaning that he meant business. The second definition is the practice of making one's living by engaging in commerce. I think that Dr. Cho did not refer to business as in the sense of the second definition, but to the first. But that's not to say why you defend that part, you have to bring it to Dr. Cho's notice that he blundered by calling them fake pastors. That would have been an opportunity for Dr. Cho to reach out to Dr. Sako, say, hey, my brother, what's going on? This lockdown, these fighters did this. Can you reach out to Chris? Let him see how we can amend this. We have to start talking to ourselves. I have said from the 20th, when I got the verdict concerning Sisiku Ayokdabe Julius, our president, and others, I said that was the ceasefire for social media. I am not going to be party to any discussions that is intended to inflame social media arguments. You see, the truth is that I have made my point sufficiently clear, and I still have enough documentation about the whole saga about my trip to Boya. I think I have opened the eyes of all our compatriots on exactly what to do and how to go about contributing their monies. And everybody knows what to do. There will obviously be some foolish ones who will still put their money where it's not supposed to be. But that said, I have given a general orientation on where monies should be contributed. Contribute to your counties. But during this period, let's all seize the opportunity to call on all the leaders, from His Excellency Sisiku Ayokdabe Julius, whose team is now led by Yerima Daphne, to Dr. Sako, who has a portion of the IG split out there, to Dr. Cho Ayaba of the AGC, to Dr. Akwanga, Bo Herbert, Jomba Akuro, Dr. Evis Kemeta, Madame Catherine of the Ark. All of you, pick your phones and beat the devil out of this game. It is important at this time for you all to know that you stand to lose everything if you don't unite. Our people are dying. And trust me, if there is no unity, by this same time next year, the population will tell you, brother, to hell with your struggle. The diaspora cannot be here scattering places while they are killing people every day. You stay on some strange spaces on WhatsApp groups, you collect money, you embezzle the money. They kill our people, yet you cannot unite. I think I've preached enough about this embezzlement, and it's about time I went back to the issues that will touch on the nitty-gritties of the bones of this revolution. We have lost over 14,000 of our compatriots. We have over 1 million refugees hanging in places, living in abject poverty, beggary, and desperation. Yet we have us living in the diaspora wearing suits and flying planes and holding meetings and discussing on live shows, and our people are dying. Even at that, those who come out to condemn corruption are being tagged federalists and being tagged compromised. But that is okay. Today, I see this opportunity not based on the fact that it is a weakness, but based on the issue that is important about national reconciliation for these, our very God-ordained revolution. To tell all the sundry that we must reconcile. I see this opportunity at this moment to beg for a generic forgiveness from everybody who felt hurt by my actions, and to also let you know that this is time for you to start picking your phones and calling each other. I have seen the mumbo jumbo on social media, the fighting, who is best, who is not, who is that, and who is okay, who has a crowd, who doesn't have a crowd. But one thing is certain, that if you keep arguing with people who live in denial, then yourself, you're not sure of what you know. I want to let you all know that going forward, when I go to my diplomatic missions, I will speak good of those who do good things on social media, and I will not speak bad of those who do bad things on social media, but I will ask for caution against them. Now, it is imperative for us to know that I am sending this message to those on ground zero, that as one of the leading voices, not that we are challenging the ghost town of Secretary Chris Anu, but based on those who have not watched before my explanation can go back and watch, based on the fact that 4 days was too short for a declaration to be made, we are asking that every one of us should allow our people to go take their salaries from the 26th, buy their foodstuffs. Those who are going to send paychecks midweek or this week, those who are looking for monies to send to their families back home, let them get ample time for their families to go pick up this money from all the various channels and be able to stock their houses, and let's have an effective lockdown from the second. I think that this is not a challenge. If I were Secretary Chris, I would go out there to say that yes, indeed, this is the truth. This is the reality, because people are complaining, and you must make sure that your laws are not repugnant to social and natural justice. Ladies and gentlemen, I have spoken with a lot of commanders. Some of them were going to be calling me, but I'm not going to have them call me on National Telegraph. We wanted to bring them live, and I have told them, from Commander Wazuzu to Gabonais, all of them, the spokesman of the Fako Meme Black Tar Council, they have understood, and that is why they came back with a new announcement. So those of you in Fako, feel free to go out, do your things. If you have any contrary attacks, that will not be coming from Ambazonian fighters. I've spoken with one of our brothers from Ambalan Kwifo. I've explained the raison d'etre, and it's important that the people of Bali should be aware that everything is cleared. All the county heads, you must give priority to your population, not to a government that you pay allegiance to. All the county heads, you must accept that your people need to get everything regulated for them to be able to assist you in implementing your orders. I want diaspora to know, for those of you who sit on televisions and you make declarations, that it is only a will, goodwill, that the people on the ground endorse your orders. The people respect your orders is based on goodwill. They could still align with the military. And when the population aligns with the military, that is the most dangerous thing for us. I don't think that the declaration from Chris Anu gives us any leverage for the population not to think otherwise. We're supposed to make the population to be free, flexible, and for us to listen to their aspirations. If you say, like for example, in my WhatsApp group, some people wrote me and said, okay, we have to go by this. They said this date, this date. All of those things are just unnecessary. You have to be rational. Look at what works for everybody, not only for you. You know, look at, for example, all the groups have endorsed 2nd to the 13th. It's just natural that we should go by this date. It is not a challenge. And this, I thought that the jailing of our leaders would bring a new stream of unity. And that's why I'm starting it. That John Bako also endorsed the 2nd. But pick your phone, call Dr. Sako. Yerema, I was in a meeting. Pick your phone, call Dr. Sako. Dr. Sako, you too are a pastor. Pick your phone, call Dr. Cho Ayaba. You people should talk to yourselves. This whole thing is not a game. They are killing people. It's a revolution. And what I did for the past 1 month, I think that has yielded fruits. Because while I was hard on Dr. Sako and Chris Anu, what did they do? Everybody started forming alliance. Dr. Sako moved towards Bo Herbert. Are we not going to clap for that? Is that not a big semblance of unity? Bo Herbert has never agreed with Dr. Sako for the longest time, and we usually use Ambazonian calling to bring them down. But he moved towards them. They went to UK together. That is unity. Ayabacho Julius, Ayabacho Lucas. Dr. Cho Lucas has never agreed with Ayotabe Julius, our president, but he moved towards him during this period. Is that not unity? Evis Kometa and Dr. Ebenezer Akwanga were in Ghana as a team. So we have had the groups now have reduced from 6 or 7 to 3. John Bako is there giving powerful messages against La Republic du Cameroon. Now it is left for all of us to initiate this overall unity. There is unity between Sisiko and Ayaba, unity between Bo Herbert and Sako, unity between Akwanga and Evis Kometa, and John Bako is there fighting the enemy globally. This is a big opportunity for everybody to come on deck. put your hands on deck and change the face of this revolution? Are you thinking about the fact that if this revolution were to fail, where are we going to be today? These are the questions you are supposed to be asking yourselves as leaders. This is not going to go forever. We have to strategize, put our hands on deck, and plan out, because what most, if not all, the leaders are doing is try by error. You announce a lockdown, you don't do provision for the fighters. How are they going to lock down? Lockdown is not by mouth, not by television declarations. It is by having them have the things that are important for them to defend themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, we all must understand that this revolution is bigger than all of us. Today, Ayok Tabe has been vindicated. People who called me tribalist, they have come to apologize, many of them. I spoke with my brother Blaise Lecor from Paris, who insulted me on social media. And he said, brother, he told me, he said, this man should resign. I will not call the person's name. I said, no, leave it. Let's preach unity. Because the people felt very betrayed by what some people said about others, because they wanted to get their way through. Even when people have been jailed, some people still encourage people to make audios because they wanted to neutralize their shame. But this is not going to take us anywhere. I opened my Facebook. I went to Mark Barretta's page, and I saw the number of publications that have reported on the case. This is what I talk about, the greatness of what La Republique did by jailing Siseko Ayok Tabe and others. The greatness, the exposure. Every news item in the world reported it, because since the history of Africa, this is probably the highest jail sentence that a liberation fighter faced. Far more than that of Mandela. But we know that it is only going to be temporary. Yet some people take it to play gymnastics with it. Not forgetting that these people have families, they have children, they have relatives, they have businesses that they have abandoned. They have everything going on. You don't know what is going through their minds. But yet, when they were jailed for life, what did they do? They were singing the Amazonian anthem. Definitely, I want us to remember that I could not have been short-sighted. And this is something that I kept for today. I could not have fallen short to the antics to come and condemn Ayok Tabe like many people wanted at the time. They call me, go and do this and you'll be popular. I said, no, I'll be very unpopular if I were to go after Ayok Tabe the way I went after other people, because Ayok did not do nothing. Remember that Barrister Fuljonso told us one time that the Minister of Defense and Justice and all those ministers forced Siseko Ayok Tabe to sign a document for them to release him from set, and he refused. That is what Barrister Fu said in their glorious days. He said they forced Ayok Tabe to sign a document, and Ayok Tabe refused. So when he used the word compromise, I reminded them in the backstage, how are we Ambazonians so myopic to thinking that a man who refused to sign a document for him to be freed when he was in the bunkers in Set for 10 months would have left Set, come to Konengi where he has access to media and to communication, and then he goes to be compromised. Without Set, Barrister Fuljonso has made amends. He mustn't come out and say, I'm sorry. By pronouncing the word our leaders, it shows that his recompense for what he has done that he knows is wrong. By Dr. Sako pronouncing the word our leaders, this is enough for us all to say, okay, you know what? Let's drop this gang standing. Let's call ourselves, reunite, bring the groups, collapse, bring the group as one, and give everybody a role to play. Let all the activists put a synchronized message out there. Yesterday, SCAF held a meeting. Mark Barretta, everybody in SCAF, Aaron, Achiri, Sikot, all the activists, let me say most, they held a meeting. And they passed a single message that they want lockdown to be for second because of this or that. As an activist, I cannot come and go contrary to my colleagues. No. I cannot come and say, oh, because this man is in this group that I don't like, he's not going to be second. I prefer to go now with the date that the other people have given because I want to challenge somebody there. That's not how life works. What is the difference? Take example, the ghost tank ends on the 13th. What's the difference between 14, 15, 16? It's just to complicate life, for people to put their own agendas on top. We all must go back to the drawing board and accept that we have made mistakes. We can change this game for good. We must accept that we have only one way out, which is unity. My crypto boy has been embezzled, and I have brought it to full fusion. Everybody has seen it. I stop it here today. Not because I'm afraid of anybody, but because I have redirected, reconstructed the minds of patriots to know that there is somebody who can stand out if their money is ever embezzled. What I raise, I've sent to FACO. Molaidi will testify. Tomorrow we'll be doing some fundraiser with the people of Midwest, if I'm not mistaken, from Wisconsin and other with Brother George. All of them will be coming out to support, probably in Gopitunja or in Dongamanto. This is what we are supposed to be thinking about. Ladies and gentlemen, we have all made mistakes. Let's respect our leaders in jail. Let's stop these conspiracy theories. Anybody who insults me on any WhatsApp group, please do not reply. Leave the person alone. Leave the person. You don't need to make any justification about who is great, who is not great. To me, Eric TATAW, I know who is the leader of this revolution. I'm not going to say it again, but anywhere I go, I'm going to talk about that person as the leader. I know who has the military tactics to indulge in good military stuff. When I go, I'm going to talk about that person. I know who is good in diplomacy. I know who is good in communication. There is no more time for this waste of time on social media. I have done my job as an objective activist, though I was called names, but the verdict from Yaoundé changed everything and made me very proud. It is never, ever going to be the same again. For those of you who want to consider it, I told them in the WhatsApp groups, start telling your leaders, making them weak by pointing out their mistakes. Say, I support you, but sir, this is wrong. This is wrong. I cannot continuously live in bewilderment. Now Ayuk Tabe is in jail for life. He has a team out there in Yerima. I'm going to be listening, following close to what Yerima is saying, because that is the person that I saw all the TV stations interviewing, and it took me by surprise. But I'm not also going to ignore what Dr. Sako will be saying. I'm going to be listening. I can also ignore what Dr. Cho will be saying. That is why when Dr. Akwanga was arrested in Ghana, I referred to him as one of the leaders. So we must all bring our differences together. Oh, this man says I can never work with Akwanga. I can never call Ayaba. Chris Anu told me I can never call Cho Ayaba over my dead body. Somebody from the Ayaba group, not Dr. Cho himself, somebody from the Cho camp, say, oh, can never work with Ayaba. I mean, what is this? The only person that I spoke with that seems that he wants to work with everybody is Yerima. The other day I spoke with him. He said, yeah, we can work with everybody. I think this is a spirit that everybody should adopt. Don't say you cannot work with nobody. You can't do that. They are killing people and we cannot be in the same position every time. You think that I'll have time to go and be listening to people who say this man is compromised, not compromised? I already said that those things are just fanciful words that some people are just learning. And so let us calm down. Let us calm down, and we must agree that as a people, somebody says, Eric, do not stop. No, that if we stop, it will be that they have won. They must bring account for the 480 million. Listen, let me tell you something. Listen, you must understand one thing, my dear. You can, some other person says, brother must pay. That's fine. You have the capacity to go after those who think they can pay. But for me, I am the dicks. And I'm out of the deck. So you can put your own dicks and start playing. I'm changing the dicks to a better dicks. I'm changing the dicks or the CD player to something better. You know, it is important for us all to understand that. We all as a people must take the fact that there is a leadership in jail and respect that. That everybody has made mistakes, and let's start calling everybody to come together united. You all know, nobody can say that stopping now means you have been defeated. No. Stopping that means I have the strength to change the game. Because only the person who has the strength will go to ask for forgiveness or tell people to come, let's reconcile. In the village, it's the chief that calls the subject to a meeting that come, let's discuss the thing affecting our community, not the other way around. So we must all agree. Somebody, Favor Francis, I'll read your comment. That's okay. If you say I've repented, you need to also repent. It's important. But I want you to understand very clearly that this whole thing will not continue in this drama. Some of you, you have like Francis Favor is not a name that is familiar with Ambazonia. It could still be somebody in La Republic trying to bear English names to begin to bring confusion, support Sako, because La Republic too, they have divided their fake profiles. This one is for Sako because at this time, there is no way that if you have somebody at this time that they are killing people, any Ambazonian will preach unity. Anybody who comes and still want to attack, say, oh no, they must bring that money. Oh, you must attack Tabanyan. Oh, who is Yerima? Oh, who is Sako? They stole. No, for this preaching, anybody who does that, I begin to suspect the person, and I'll go through those profiles after this live show and decide what to do with them. So we must all agree that we have all made mistakes, and so we seize this opportunity to beg everybody to forgive each other. Now, going forward, there is an app that has been developed by some of our compatriots known as One Teacher. I'll try to find out that app from my brother Isaac. Let me see. So this app permits us to study at home. All our children can have that app. It doesn't need internet. So in the days ahead, they'll be putting it out so that while there's a lockdown, while there's no school, children can be studying at home. Wherever you are in the refugee camps, you can be having this study. So in one of our shows, we'll bring one of these people to come out there to ensure that they explain to us exactly what's going on. To end, I want to say that we have preached enough. Everybody knows what happens. There's been embezzlement. Let's end it at this point. But I also want to urge us that nobody should contribute their monies to anywhere that they feel that they doubt. I advised, in the best of my knowledge, that the safest place to put your money is where your counties belong. You have to look at the safest place to put your money. Either you give directly to your counties, or those of you who come from various areas, you know some of the people who are fighters there. You can call them, say, okay, what is the problem? You have not to have control over them. It's okay, with somebody is wounded, you can give them the $100 or $50 directly to treat their wounds, or tell them that, okay, I'll give it to your county coordinator, and then connect the county coordinator, say, this man called me. I think this is the best way to go. If a fighter has a problem and calls you, okay, say, which county are you from? Ngokutunja. Okay, look for the head of Ngokutunja, connect with the fighter, give the help to the person of Ngokutunja, and assign that help to go directly to that fighter. So that after 1 or 2 days, 3 days, if the fighter has not received the help, you hold the Ngokutunja county head responsible. In that way, you keep the respect between the ground and the top. Ground zero needs diaspora needs ground zero. It's vice versa. So we want to beg that everybody should calm down. Let's help in assisting our people to realize this victory. Thank you so very much. We're going to explain a whole lot of things in our other shows. As you are all aware, we have issues going on and cannot explain about our social media stuff. So we have a new page, Eric TATAW Rock. Eric TATAW, that one is the Eric ends with K. Then there's TATAW and there's Rock. You can help to follow up so that we begin to use that subsequently. We'll only preach unity henceforth. But I want people who would take this as an advantage to know that at a point, I can always be back. Thank you so much.